In this lesson, we'll begin creating the character's arm bones. Let's bring back our model and move over to our top view. It'd be best to create our arm chain from there, considering the chain's preferred angle, just to make sure that in IK mode we get the correct elbow bending functionality. So again, moving to our top view, we'll go ahead and take a look at things. It might be a good idea to hide a few objects, especially our bones, so we don't connect this arm chain to any other systems. We'll hide our controls and the hidden layer. So it's going to be kind of difficult to create our clavicle and shoulder, the forearm and wrists, much easier to do, but we could always work with bone edit mode to fix any bones we'll need to. So let's go ahead and get started. We will start by creating the clavicle right around the center of our character. And then we'll create our shoulder, the forearm, there's the wrist, and we'll end right at the end of the palm. There's no need to separate the wrist here because it flows very well into the forearm. Alright, great. So that looks good. Let's say we go ahead and exit Create Bones mode. And let's go ahead and move back to our perspective view. I'll also go ahead and bring back the objects we've hidden. Grabbing the clavicle, let's go ahead and translate it up. And you can see that the chain size might be a bit too large. So what I'll do is go ahead and select every bone here. Again, we'll just use Control Page Down. And let's move over to our script editor. So that's going to be $.width. We could always work with a width of 3 as well as our height. Alright, so once that's taken care of, we'll go ahead and take a look. Very nice. You can see that the nub looks kind of warped. That's what happens when we resize this object after it's been made. But no worries, if we were to go back to Bone Tools, we could always remove the nub, select the wrist, and go ahead and create a new end. Alrighty. This would be a good time to start moving these objects in place, so we can start with our clavicle. What I'll do is go ahead and switch the coordinate system to world. And now let's go ahead and start to slide this over. We want to make sure that the clavicle is going to pivot from the right spot, so that's going to be on the outer left hand side of the neck. That way when it rotates up, we're getting the right amount of rotation for some good shoulder volume here. Okay, so I think that's going to work out well. Let's go ahead and move this forward on the y-axis. Okay, great. So now we need to take a look at the rest of the chain. Let's go ahead and double click on our shoulder bone to grab the entire hierarchy. And let's go ahead and go to bone edit mode, and we'll start to slide this back. We need to make sure that the shoulder is going to pivot from right about the point where the arm geometry starts or where the seam of the sleeve is. So we get some really nice rotation when the arm, let's say, drops. Alright, so that looks pretty good. I'll press the Z key to zoom into the chain, kind of zoom in a little bit more just to make sure we like what we see. It looks like we'll need to bring the chain forward a bit more, so we can always do that in the y-axis. And now we can go ahead and adjust the orientation of this chain. It's going to be a matter of adding some rotation and repositioning each bone until it fits properly inside of our mesh. So I'll go ahead and turn off bone edit mode. We'll go ahead and grab our rotate tool. In gimbal mode, let's go ahead and rotate down in our y-axis, and we can always turn off angle snap with the A key just to get to a precise orientation. So that's looking pretty good. I might go ahead and bring this up a bit more. Great. So from there, again, just zooming into the shoulder, making sure we like where it's at, making sure it rests nicely inside of our mesh. We can now start to use bone edit mode to adjust our forearm. Let's go ahead and grab our move tool and set this to local mode. Now we can move in the Y and X axes and just slide that over right where the elbow should bend. So we could always center it to the edge loop we see. Great. And how about the wrist? Well, let's go ahead and double click to grab the entire wrist here, and let's go ahead and slide this over. You can see the edge loop right where the hand starts. That's where we want the wrist pivot to be. So we'll place it there. Great. And everything looks very nice. So let's go ahead and start to rename these objects. I'll go ahead and exit bone edit mode. So the clavicle, we will skin to this object. This is going to have a name of bone underscore L underscore clavicle 01. Alright, great. So for the shoulder and the forearm, we will not skin to those. So we use the prefix bndrv L shoulder underscore main 01. Alright, let's go ahead and copy that and use that to rename the forearm. So it's going to be forearm main. And now for the wrist, we will skin to this bone. So let's go ahead and paste the name in here. That's going to be bone L wrist 01. Alright, that looks good. Let's go ahead and copy this name and rename the nub. So we'll go ahead and paste that in, and that's going to be BN end L wrist. We can now store these in their layers. So let's go ahead and do that. We know that for the nub, for the forearm, and the shoulder, they'll all be stored in hidden. And for our clavicle and wrist, we'll store those in the bones layer. Alrighty, so everything has been stored and renamed. We're not ready to freeze transforms just yet. You can still do that, but keep in mind that we will be linking this to our torso, so we just want to make sure that we are freezing this at the right time so we can get some really clean rotate values. I'd also like to point out that eventually we'll want to change the rotate order of our shoulder so that we get some really nice counter twisting when we go ahead and set that up to hold some volume right here. So everything in its time. Let's go ahead and stop the lesson. In the next lesson, we will start to work on the hand bones.